podcast, we are getting all into how to find the path to your purpose. I am so happy to get into this with you today. We are going to have a day filled with just jam-packed, you guys, with information about how to really, kind of like a more detailed way to find your purpose, a more detailed way to be sure you're on the right path. And we're going to go over a lot of stuff. So this is a very, hopefully a very information packed live today for you guys. And I'm going to do my best to stick around for quite a while today. So I know that oftentimes my lives end up being maybe an hour or so. My goal today is for this to be more like a marathon and have it be like a 4-hour live. So it's about 2:20. That would mean I would go till about 6:20 Pacific time. We'll see how long I can make it. But even if you have stuff going on, because I'll be here so long, you can always come back and catch different parts of the live. And if you're watching the replay, don't feel like you missed anything, guys. Just know that there's going to be lots of info that is just as good after the fact. We are, though, today going to give you guys a chance to ask questions about finding your purpose. And I need to actually put this in the chat here. So the way we're going to do it is super chat $10 for priority. Let me rephrase that. To ask a question about following your purpose. No chart readings. Those are going to be for another time and another place. So these are coaching questions, and I'm going to pin this to the top. And that's what we're going to do. I'm so excited about this, you guys. We're going to talk about something called the Ikagai, and we are going to talk about how it relates to astrology. And then I'm going to give you guys some steps to find and follow your purpose. And I use the words find the path to your purpose in this for a reason, because when we are looking for our purpose, and I know how this goes because I was lost like this for so long, oftentimes we're looking for something external. We want to find the right job. We want to ask a tarot reader to tell us if we're meant to do this kind of work. And sometimes I do get clients asking those kind of questions. And sometimes with the chart, I can easily see, hell yes, that's a hell yes. But oftentimes it's more like you could do this, or you could do this, or you could do this. And if you did this, you might not like this part. That's kind of what it's like when you're booking a reading with me on career. But there are some things that if you know with the Ikagai, it can help kind of as a different kind of tool to guide you toward creating the path to your highest potential. So we're going to look at that today. We are going to have a Q&A, and just keep in mind that for people who have left super chats, who are here during the live broadcast, number one, no chart readings, meaning, I have Venus in this sign and my midheaven in this. What am I supposed to do? And the reason I'm doing this is because even though the astrology is a good step and it can help guide you to your purpose, that method of trying to find your purpose just by where your planets are is missing a piece, okay? It's missing a piece. It is like, and I've said this before, it's like using the map, like figuring out where your purpose is on the map, but then not taking the step toward the journey. The path to your purpose is in the journey. And I know that sounds super cliche, like, I don't want to be on the journey. I want to be there. But you can't actually get there if you don't take the step. And I know that a lot of you are taking steps and, you're working toward it and you're building it, but it's always good to have that reminder that we all have within us the map. The chart is just a reflection of the energies already inside of you. So the chart reading should, unless we're looking at transits and stuff, should really be a confirmation of things about yourself you already know, or guide you to things that are already true about you that maybe you don't see. So, that being said, like I said, we're going to talk about how to find the path to your purpose. You can ask me questions on this live, and the kind of questions I'm going to look forward to answering are like things like, I'm stuck on this. How do I get unstuck? How do I decide between this option and this option? I feel really discouraged. What do I do? Just questions, about how to solve the problem in front of you on the path to your purpose. So that being said, for anyone who super chats here now or soon, keep in mind that I will be doing these all later on in the broadcast. So let's get going on the Ikagai. I am so excited about this today, you guys. And by the way, there is a link in the description for my Saturn course if you want to join us to master your Saturn. And I'll talk later about this as well. But if you want to join us, there is a link and you can sign up for that. It is open for enrollment. So that being said, let's go ahead now and pull up our Ikagai and talk about what the Ikagai is. Let me know in a comment below, guys. Have you heard of the Ikagai? Do you know what it is? One second. There it is. All right, so here we go. As you can see, we have the beautiful Ikagai on the left. It's on the left to me. It might be on your right. Either way, it's on the screen. The Ikagai is now on the screen, and we're going to talk about these 4 quadrants that we have here on this Ikagai. So Ikagai is a Japanese word. This whole thing is a Japanese concept, and the Ikagai loosely translates into reason for being, reason for being. So we have these 4 major big circles, as you can see, that overlap. So we have what you love, what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. Okay, so some people miss the what you're good at part. And this is really common, and this is kind of a misconception in the spiritual community, in the self-help and self-development community, is that people think that, oh, I'm just supposed to now do what I love and I'll never have to work a day in my life. And so that's a nice idea, except for the fact that it's not totally true. And the reason it's not totally true is that when you do what you love as your job, what you love becomes work. Okay? Some people prefer their hobby to be their hobby and their work to be something else. Sometimes when you love something and you try to make it into a job, it then sucks the life out of that thing. So think about people who like play video games for a living. They're not doing that. They're not having fun playing video games. They're treating it like a job where they are being the best video gamer. And I know this sounds kind of extreme, right? Because I think of this job as like the easiest job or funnest job ever. But in reality, just like any other job, it takes a skill. So another example of doing what you love and maybe it not being always the right thing. Like you can start with what you love, but not everything you love is necessarily supposed to be your job. So I'll give an example from my life on this one. When I was in South Korea, I sing. I don't sing as much anymore, but I wrote some songs in Korea, like as a hobby, and I actually co-wrote a song and recorded it in a studio when I was living in South Korea. The guy wrote the melody. He asked me to write the lyrics. And it was so funny because I remember feeling nervous about that because I wasn't really like a songwriter at that point. And I asked him what he intended with the lyrics, just because I was afraid I wasn't going to do good enough. And he said it should rhyme. I was like, I think I can do that. And so that was an experience and it was a lot of fun, but it also taught me that I don't want to record songs. I did another one where I recorded a song in a studio and I kind of did it wrong. And I should have had a guitar player, like get the guitar and then hired them and then went to the studio, but I did it in the reverse order and I just wasted money because I was trying to like push myself to like be further than I was. And so that we'll talk about that later. So the point here is sometimes doing what you love isn't the right path, and that's okay. So I just want to give you permission that if you are building a skill and it's not your first passion, that is okay. But I'd love to hear from you guys jumping on. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to finding the path to your purpose? What are you stuck on at this moment? I'd love to just hear from you, whether you're live or watching the replay. What do you feel is the biggest obstacle or the biggest challenge? And so, what you love is on the top of this chart. And as you can see, if you're doing what you love and it's what the world needs, that's a mission, right? That's when you have a focus where it becomes a mission because somebody needs that from you. So, if you love doing crossword puzzles, and you're good at it, but the world doesn't need it and you can't be paid for it, well, maybe that's a passion. Maybe you're passionate about crossword puzzles, right? So we can all have skills, things that we're good at that aren't either aren't monetizable or, the world doesn't need that. And someone might argue that the world needs to help, maybe in some way, in some reality, there is someone who does crossword puzzles for a living. There are people who write them, right? So maybe that's that. But my point isn't to discourage anyone. My point here is that there are things that you will be good at that just wouldn't make sense to try to make a profession out of. Either because there's not enough demand, like there are not enough people who would pay for that thing, or because you wouldn't like to do it, you wouldn't love it anymore, like I said earlier. Okay, so going back to the Ikagai, when you have what you love and what the world needs, that becomes a mission. And sometimes your mission is something that you monetize. Sometimes your mission is something that you end up doing on the side after work. It just depends. So we're going to talk about all four quadrants. So let's talk about vocation. Vocation is like a job, right? It's when you can be paid for something and the world needs it. So I think of the doctors and lawyers of the world, although there are some doctors and lawyers who love it and are good at it. So those people we would say are living their Ikagai, whereas maybe the doctors and lawyers who are just going to work and just giving the world what it needs. Well, I wouldn't say they're doing anything wrong. But I would say when you have a vocation, it tends to be more exhausting because it's not your mission. And that's the thing that's missing, even if we take out passion out of the equation, because I think passion is another way we get stuck when we're trying to find the path to our purpose. We think if we don't have this passionate spark every day, that it's not the right path. That's not true. You're not going to feel passionate every single day. And sometimes when we are working toward our Ikagai, when we are working toward our purpose, there are many, many days of work that are not passionate at all. And I can tell you that from experience that many of the days that I went live or I did readings or I did something else to promote, the days that I was creating my email list, you guys, that I now have, I was not feeling the passion. So that can be a bit of a myth because it actually trips people up because people think that if it's hard, it's going the wrong way, and that's not the case. You can be passionate about something and still have to do other things with it that you don't love. I'm passionate about astrology. I'm passionate about helping people find their purpose, and I'm good at astrology and I'm good at teaching it. And the world turns out needs this. But I want you to know that I did a bunch of shit before this. I did a bunch of stuff that didn't seem to work before this, and I still figured it out. So the point here is that if I could do that, then so can you. Leisha's saying crochet has been my thing for years now and that it is blowing up. I know I wouldn't be able to keep up with the demand if I started a shop now. Okay. So that's interesting. That's interesting. I would say there are solutions for that, but that's probably a different YouTube channel. Yeah, I love like listening and learning about business, but I wouldn't say that's my zone of genius. Um, okay, so Kathy T is saying you want to make money from your mission. Well, you could, right? So you could make money from your mission. Like think about someone like I don't, and I feel like when we think about famous people, sometimes this trips us up a little bit. But think about someone like famous musicians. They probably really love it. Most of them probably really love it, and it's what the world needs from them. And what the world needs from you is personal to you as well. So, okay. So, what you love and what the world needs. Kathy is saying, my biggest challenge is that I want to make money from my mission. Yeah. Well, and this is one of the reasons why, um, this is one of the reasons why I do this work because sometimes there's a way that we can, and sometimes it's easier for someone else to see how we can make money from the thing than it is for us. And sometimes our feeling that we can't make money is because we know that, like Leisha and Terry, that they wouldn't be able to handle the actual situation, right? So it's like that's kind of one of the things is like, can you handle it if it were to work out? And that's actually something I'm going to talk about later as well. Ooh, Leisha says started doing oracle readings on YouTube. Last live is almost at 300 views. Awesome. Terry says I'm a retired nurse of 24 years. My passion is astrology now. That is awesome. That is awesome. Okay, guys. So, in order to really feel like you are living out your Ikagai, you got to be able to blend all these things, what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. And let's talk about what you're good at for a moment, because this is one of the parts that I feel like gets overlooked a bit. And I cannot stress enough how much getting to even right here has been about building skills. Even when I felt lost, even when I didn't know what my next step was, even when I was getting no views, I was getting like 12 views on YouTube. I was building the skills to have this channel, whether it be learning how to do thumbnails or titles, whether it be, and just so everyone knows, I didn't start off as an astrologer. I started off learning Reiki, and then I added tarot, and then I learned coaching. I learned hypnotherapy. I learned a lot about the chakras. I did more Reiki classes. I did all these skills until finally I found the right skill or the right skill set. Yes, that's exactly right. And so I'm going to talk now, that's right, Kathy, about where you can find these things in the astrology chart. So what you love, usually you're going to find that at your Venus. You know, your Venus and your Jupiter. Your Venus usually is what you love to receive, and your Jupiter is usually something that makes you feel better, like you enjoy it, or you feel like you have more faith or hope or optimism, or you have more luck when you do the thing of your Jupiter. So my Jupiter is in the sixth house, and I'm always trying to like figure out new things, like new supplements or new ideas for like what to do for my health. And I find that I'm happier when I do that. That is not something I am going to want to get paid for. And some of that is just my choice. I don't want to get paid for that. It's not what I want to do. Like it's what I love personally, right? I have Venus in Sagittarius. I love foreigners. I loved going to South Korea. I loved going to Japan. I loved going to Thailand. I loved going to Norway and Sweden. I loved traveling. I loved learning about different cultures. I love living in places where I see people that have different skin color every single day. I love not living in places that are just white people. I love variety and diversity. Okay, so those things are not things I'm going to try to like monetize. but they're what I love. Now, what we love can also be stuff that we do, right? So someone with Venus and Sag might love traveling. Someone with Venus and Taurus might love music. And you don't really need to define where your Venus is usually to figure out what you love. Oftentimes you're going to just know. You're going to know that when you listen to music, you love it, or when you go to live music, you love it, or when you watch movies, you love it. You're going to probably know that. And we don't usually, again, we don't usually need to make everything we love into a money-making thing, because when it starts making money, we don't get to just sit back and enjoy it. So even if you love movies, you love watching movies, if you became a movie critic, well, you might still love watching movies, but you wouldn't get to just sit back and enjoy watching movies anymore. Because then you'd have to notice how all the scenes, how the character development was off and everything like that. So that is something really important about your purpose. Not everything you love is going to be your purpose. And beyond that, not everything you think you love, you're going to actually love. I can't tell you how many times I realized just by experiencing something that I didn't actually love it. And I have an example for this. When I graduated from college, I didn't know what to do next. I didn't really love Spanish. I mean, I did love Spanish, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I was young, and I just thought if I found the next right thing to study, it would be better. Like I just kept thinking if I just go back to school, then I don't know, I would find the thing I love. Like I was in this trap, which is why I'm talking about this, because I don't want you guys to be in this trap. So I thought, well, maybe I'll become a teacher. So I was going to apply to the elementary education school, right, to get a BA in elementary education. Thank God I did not do that. No offense to teachers, to elementary school teachers. You guys are like, wonderful, wonderful, do amazing work. So this is not, not a dig on teachers. But they had you volunteer X amount of hours at a school. So you had to go in and be like a TA for kindergarten. And I remember like they couldn't write words. And I was like, this wouldn't really bother me now. But at the time, I did not have the patience to deal with little kids who couldn't write words and letters and stuff. That makes me sound horrible, but it's true. Like not everyone has that like caring, nurturing, and I can be caring and nurturing, but like I hated it. I was bored. It wasn't fun. And so I didn't finish the volunteer hours, and thank God that they did that. Thank God that they thought well enough to know to like not get teachers to, not get people to pay for this thing if they don't really like it. So my point here is that sometimes you don't love what you think you're going to love. And part of the process of finding your purpose is testing that stuff out. It's pretty easy to, figure out whether you like doing something or don't like doing something. Yeah, okay. So Marianne says one of your best friends was going to be a teacher. When she went into her first class, she realized she hated it because of the red tape. Yeah, and it's like that this can happen with anything, right? Just like with music. Recording a song, I realized I hated it because I didn't like a lot of the things about recording. I thought I was going to, I thought I was going to, but it's like the things you just think you're just going to go into a studio and sing a song, and there's so much more to it. Like it's way harder to like sing for work than it is to sing just to sing. Okay, so what you love is not always what you think you love, and that is some of the path to figuring out how to find the path. What you're good at is what I'm going to keep coming back to today, because what you're good at on this Ikagai, the left hand side here, this is going to be, in my opinion, this is the biggest thing. This is the biggest thing, is being good at a thing, good enough at a thing that it becomes special and unique. Now, a lot of people get tripped up here And this is one of the things that stops people too, is you think, well, someone else is already doing it. Let me know in a comment below if you relate to that. If you have thought of doing something to find and follow your purpose, and your next thought was, nope, someone else is already doing it. Everyone else is already doing astrology. Everyone else is already doing that. I can't do it too. Or, something like that. And I want to speak to that in particular because there's a way to do something someone else is already doing and still make it work. And that is by blending another thing, either another skill or a part of your personality. So this makes it really, really easy to do something someone else is already doing. So let's take something like having your own YouTube channel, just because this is something I'm doing, and it's an area that I'm in, I'm in the community of YouTube. So let's say you want to have a YouTube channel, and let's say you want to have like a coaching YouTube channel. Let's just say that's what you want to do, and you're like, but everyone else already has a coaching YouTube channel, and you see all these other coaching YouTube channels, and you're like, all these other people are already answering these questions. One way to do it is to be a coach, like niche down really, really specifically. A lot of people have resistance here, but it's one way, like coaching moms who just had a baby how to get back in the workforce, something like that, where it's so specific. Two would be to add something about your personality that isn't even related to coaching, the vegan coach or the meat eating coach or, the coach, the nomad coach, or there's probably a lot of those now. So you might want to do something else, right? So there's ways to take something you're good at, even if other people are also good at it, and blend it with something else so that now you become the only one like it. And the idea that, other people aren't you, that's true. But in order to really, really do well, you kind of do have to figure out what problem you're solving that other people aren't solving. Either find a gap of what the world needs, right? So maybe the world needs a coach who does micro coaching because all the other coaches do, $3,000 packages, and maybe you found a way to do micro coaching. So this is something the world needs, and you found a way to make it profitable, and now you can be paid for it and you love it more because it's in a format you like more, and you do really well because you solved a problem. So, of course, there's a little bit more than this to it, but this is the idea, is that us monetizing our passion, I think this will become more and more and more important over the years as Pluto is entering Aquarius, and we are in a time where there will be robots. And if you have a job that can be replaced by robots, it probably will be. And, we need more and more to step into our creativity, and it kind of does force us to be more creative and solve the world's problems. Aquarius, help change the world. I don't know says, I've had a tarot channel over a year. I love it, but there's a lot of competition. So yeah, it really is. It really is hard in the tarot world. There is a ton of competition. And I even found that actually this channel was a tarot channel before it was a astrology channel. This was probably back in, I don't know, 2018. And so, okay, if you guys annoy me, I'm blocking you. I'm just sick of it. Okay, so going back to hold on, I don't know was saying, I'm just going to pull up this comment. That is true. That is true. And I do think that that's not untrue. And the thing is because YouTube has more and more and more and more, people that have channels than it has people watching, like that does matter. That does matter. I don't know. And I'm not saying you should like get discouraged and give up, but there is a lot of competition And when you are entering a competitive field, sometimes you kind of have to go find a back door of some kind, whether that is another platform that's easier to grow on and funnel people through that, whether it is like a super, super, super tight niche where it's like tarot for business only or tarot for this one particular thing, or whether you blend something else or do something else to kind of stand out. And I'm no like business expert, but the real point of this is to kind of help you guys see the path. Because when you see the path, and you're, how do I put this? So let's take, I don't know, situation. And if anyone else is in a similar situation where you're like, yeah, I'm doing this thing, but it's like really hard right now. And there's competition and it's just difficult. Comment in the comments. So if you're in this situation, the path here is okay, this is going to seem counterintuitive, but hear me out. Hear me out. The path when you are in like a crowded market or things are going slow is to become the person who can see the solution. And I know that sounds really easy and it's not always easy, but this is the way to your purpose. And when it is our purpose, oftentimes we end up personalizing this so much and holding so tightly to it and feeling like it is our baby and it matters so much to us. We sort of strangle it energetically a little bit. And I'm speaking from my own experience where it's like when you want something that bad, sometimes it doesn't come easily. But when you are in a situation like this, where you know what you love, you know you want to monetize it, you know what you want to do to monetize it, and it's not coming easily, I'm not going to be like, oh, that's because of the law of attraction and you're not aligned. If you're in a crowded market, it's going to be crowded. The law of attraction isn't going to fix that. I'm sorry, but becoming the person who can learn how to stand out in a crowded market, that's the thing to do if you want to go that route. And one of the things I see spiritual people especially do wrong in situations like this is go the whole one door opens, one door closes, one more opens. If it's hard, I guess it's not for me. There is nothing real about that. There is nothing real or true about your path being easy, and this is why people hate New Age spirituality, is because it breeds this sense of entitlement that if all doors don't open for you automatically after just meditating once and deciding you want to teach people how to manifest and like doing no work, that, it's not for you. No, 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 no. That is not the case. It's about figuring out how to do what you are good at, get paid for it, and make sure it's also what the world needs at the same time. And figuring out what parts of what you love you need to keep and what parts of what you love you can separate into something else, just like someone who has a business and has music as a hobby. Okay, so Tradir International, you'll have to use a super chat for that. And I'm not answering questions about like, these are my chart placements. This is what I'm supposed to do, because I want to help you guys move beyond this method of thinking. I'm a moon in Pisces, sun in Sag. What should I do? There's not a thing that a moon in Pisces, sun in Sag is supposed to do. You can learn pieces of it, right? You can learn what your rising is good at. You can learn what your, Taurus sun means. You can learn what your moon in Virgo means, but that's not going to tell you what you're supposed to do. And so I'm trying to help you guys move past that. Okay, so Alicia's saying created my own deck with index cards. If the answer is no, I'm telling you straight up why. Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, to be honest, guys, Mars is on my midheaven, so I was like, I might get in some fights today, and I might be the cause. But I also, needed to do this live stream. I'm actually, for those of you just jumping on, I'm trying to go live for 4 hours, and I've made it about 20 minutes, so we'll see how long I make it. Also, you guys can super chat $10 with questions about your purpose, but no chart reading and no astrology interpretations. Tradir, many people running after my job. Okay, so let's go ahead with what were we getting into? I'm going to drink some water and try to remember what I was getting into. Oh my God, I am just so thirsty. Okay. Okay, so I was going on a rant about how it doesn't like the path, there's no guarantee that the path is easy. There is a sense that it'll click into place though. And that's the difference. Easy versus click into place are two totally different things. When I started offering astrology by donation, it clicked into place. How did I know that? Because when I was offering Reiki by donation, tarot by donation, coaching by donation, I'd get like between $5 and $30. When I started offering astrology by donation, I started getting $125 and roughly per, that's just what people donated. And I'm not saying that, everything's about money, but it was an obvious difference. There was an obvious difference in the excitement of my audience when I talked about astrology versus anything else. And so there's a difference between easy and clicking into place, because that clicked into place. Was it easy? No, it was not easy. The next year after that, no, the following year. So a year later, from that December till now, probably actually I'd say from that December till the following December, I must have had a really shitty solar return, because it was the probably the worst year of my life. And it wasn't like because horrible things outside of me happened, a little bit did, but like just like all I'm trying to say, just because you're on the right path doesn't mean it's going to be easy. So just because things are hard does not mean you're on the wrong path. Okay. I cannot say that loud enough. Okay. I got that off my chest. Okay. So the $10 information is pinned to the top, I think. And it is, you can super chat $10 to ask a question about following your purpose. No chart readings. And it's just no astrology info, right? So like, this is my sun, moon, rising. What am I supposed to do? If you want to do that, you need to book a full reading, because I have to look at your sun, your moon, your rising, your midheaven, the planet that rules your midheaven, what Saturn's doing to you, which, planets are the strongest. We have to go through a bunch of different things, which by the way, guys, I'm doing a course on Saturn where we'll go over this stuff, but I'm going to talk more about that later for people who want to join. I don't know. I kind of hear you. I kind of hear you on this. I worked at a crystal shop where I was doing tarot readings for a year, and I wouldn't say, I mean, I don't like using the word toxic, although I hear what you're saying. But I would have people, some of the times I would have clients who would come in and like a month later, they'd come back with the same question. They didn't change anything. And I'm like, I can't help you. Like they just wanted some fluffy lie, And I would have people who like need to sell their house and would book a tarot reading on it, and they would, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting you, you just need to like I can't help you sell your house. I'm a tarot reader. Get out of here. Go, talk to a realtor. But people would just want me to like tell them this magical thing about things that wasn't really magical. And also I got a lot of awesome clients who I really got to help. But I was doing one of the things on this chart, which is I was doing what I was good at. I was doing tarot readings. I was using my intuition, and that is what I was doing. So that being said, what else are we going to talk about here? We talked about what you love. We talked about how what you love is not always what you want to do for your purpose, because sometimes it's better to just love what you love, and you're not like, if you were to monetize that thing, you wouldn't love it anymore. So you find the thing you love that you can also do as a skill. So this is why I focus so much when I'm talking about how I found my purpose on skill building, because I think that's the one thing I did right. And I didn't know I was doing it right. I didn't have, I didn't know about the Ikagai back then. I didn't know I was going to be an astrologer back then. I didn't know anything, guys. I just was like a lost puppy floating around trying to figure this all out. And I was like, okay, well, what can I do? And so I would just do stuff. I would do stuff. I would do Reiki. I would learn Reiki. I would learn tarot. I tried when I learned tarot. And one of the things I did, I'm thinking back on this, is that I jumped into the stuff that I did. I didn't just sit there and go, okay, I'm just doing this a little bit. I would do things a lot. I would do things all the way. I learned tarot really fast. And then I started doing readings really fast. And I got feedback really fast. And I got better really fast because I jumped in. So that's one of the things I also see. And I have a list of how many things did I do? 10? 10 things you can do to find the path. But I wanted to, yeah, Natalie, just try it. And this is something you guys, and I know what it's like because this is what I did too, where sometimes I would be like, well, I want to write a book. Should I write a book? And I would just have this passing interest. And I would like try to grab onto the thought and like ground it. I'm not writing notebooks, guys. At least not yet. But it's like, this is one of the things we tend to do wrong is we'll try to grab the thought and ground it. But the only way to ground a thought is to do something. So if you're thinking about writing a book, the way to ground that thought isn't to figure out what your book would be about, is to open up your word processor or get your pen and paper and start fucking writing. And this is one of the mistakes some of us make. We'll get stuck in our head and we want to plan it and we want to know what it's going to be because our mind wants to know. Our mind wants to know ahead of time, that it's going to work out before we take a step. We don't get that guarantee. We just get to move through life. Oh, thanks, Kathy, for bringing me back on track. So Venus Jupiter is probably going to be what you love. You're going to find a little bit of what you love with your sun, right? It's just something you're going to naturally go toward. You can even look to the house placement, sign and house of your ascendant ruler. And that might not be what you love, but it'll be like your quest in life, the direction you head in life. Let's go around this circle and talk about what each thing is in the astrology. So what you love is going to be, like I said, Venus, Jupiter. And I kind of want to write on this, but I don't think I can. Maybe I can. Yeah, okay, so we're going to switch it and see if I can write on it. This will be a beautiful chicken scratch thing we do. Where'd it go? Oh, I can't. Hold on. I used to be so good at technology, then I got old, you guys. I'm going to be one of those old people who's like, what's an iPhone? Can I draw on this one? No, damn it. How? I'm going to figure this out. Give me a second. We're going to write on this. Thanks, Terry. Let me see. Terry, did you have a question? Man, okay, hold on. I don't know if I can do it. I'm going to try one more time, and if it doesn't work, we'll move on. But I'd really like to be able to write on this and write those planets on there. Okay, here we go. Okay, so let's see if we can do it like this. my goodness. Hold on. First of all, can we see it? Yes. All right. Hopefully I can do this. So, except I still can't draw on this. Damn it. I might not be able to, guys. Okay, bear with me for a second. I had this extension and it's not here anymore. Oh, here's something I need to do. Okay, I want to make sure. You guys comment if we're back. I know we lost our connection. And I'm trying to get so I can draw on this fucking thing. And it's driving me nuts. Let me just see. Back. Yes. Okay. Misfortune. I was thinking about you guys are like open paint. If I can't get this to work, I will open paint. Okay. Okay, we're just gonna do paint. This is so stupid. It's not gonna look good on here. I'm really doing this. You guys, hold on. See, I can't get it to look like normal. It's tiny. I think I have to give up because it's gonna look stupid. Okay, so I have to give up on that. Okay, so just imagine it has Jupiter and Venus on what you love. And then, oh wait, maybe I can do it here. Okay. Can you guys see it? Gosh, it's gonna look so bad. Jupiter and Venus. Yes. Okay, so you should, let me see. Can you guys see it? No. Okay, hold on. Oh my God, this is so stupid. Okay, that's so beautiful. I just spent like 15 minutes getting this so I could do this. Kathy's saying can't see anything. Hopefully that's refreshed now. Hopefully, let's see. Yes. Okay, it's on here. It's on here. Oh my gosh, that was so stupid. Okay, so now we have Jupiter and Venus where they should be on what you love and what the world needs. Does anybody know? It's going to be your midheaven. And the thing about what the world needs is you don't get to pick it. And what the world needs from you or will accept from you is different than what it needs from other people. This is why when, one person explains something and it's like really awesome, they, get all this praise and another person can explain the same thing and they're like, you're dumb or whatever. So, I mean, that's an exaggeration, but sometimes we can see this, we can trace this back to, are you showing up in alignment with your midheaven? And so with my midheaven being in Gemini, I really have to consider, does the person want to hear what I have to say? And it's something I'll always have to work on. And everyone does have to work on this to an extent. But if I get too Sagittarius on people and I just get too into what I'm saying and too into the story and how much it means, people hate that for me. And so oftentimes what your eyes see is if you act that out in public or in your career, people don't like it. So what the world needs from you can be personal and it can be traced back to your midheaven and your midheaven ruler. So then we're going to go to what you can be paid for. We can see this by your second house and the planet that rules that house. Now, this by itself may not be some like enlightening thing, and it's not always what exactly you can be paid for. Sometimes it's like how you get paid. So for me, my midheaven ruler is conjunct the planet Uranus, which means it might just be all of a sudden. And some people who have, like, let's say Uranus in their second house, these are people sometimes who have big businesses because that Uranus is like a sudden burst of money or a sudden increase or a sudden decrease. So like people who build a business and then make a one-time sale where it like one-time transaction of the sale of the business, that would be a Uranus second house kind of a thing. And we could go through, I have whole videos on this. But the point is what you can be paid for sometimes is not any of this stuff, right? So, and the thing is remember, there's something that the world needs that you can be paid for. Everyone could go get a good job at a fast food place right now. The world needs fast food workers. America needs them right now, anyways. In terms of there's a shortage, but most people don't want to do that. So it's like just because you can be paid for something, not everyone feels very excited about this. But misfortune, no, Leisha's saying my second house is in Aries, but it's empty. Don't get upset over empty houses. Just a reminder, empty houses are not bad. When a house is empty, you just look to where the ruler of that house, the planet that represents it, is to find more information. So what you can be paid for is going to be shown by your second house. And so what you can be paid for, what the world needs, and what you're good at, that in astrology is your 6th, 10th, and second house. So 2, 6, and 10. And it gets a little complicated here because the 6th house sometimes will represent not always what you're good at, but like what skill you do for work, what your job is. And there are things you are good at that are not going to be your 6th house. So I'm gonna see if I can erase. I don't want to erase it all. We're just gonna cross off that. But there really is this trifecta in the chart: second, sixth, tenth. That the sixth house and the 10th house are trining the midheaven. So they're just feeding that midheaven, those skills and that money. And it all kind of comes together there. But what you're good at is represented by many, many, many things in the chart. And some people have, like, for everyone, it's different. So I'm going to tell you some things that might represent what you're good at in astrology. You can look for biquintiles and quintiles. That's an aspect. You can look for Saturn. Saturn we'll talk about last. No, that's not Saturn. Try that again. Saturn. This is going to be the best live ever, and I'm just drawing shit on paint. Okay, Saturn is a big one. Okay, some other things that you might be good at. Sometimes your sun is going to show you what you're good at. Sometimes your rising is going to show you a focus, a life focus, and kind of what your life is about. And oftentimes you're going to put all these things together to figure out what you're good at. It's not going to be just one thing. Another thing in your astrology that might show you what you're good at, you can see your Mercury, and then you can look at conjunctions. Conjunctions are actually good. You can look at sextiles. Sextiles sometimes tell us what we're good at, but what we have to cultivate in order to be good at it. Trines sometimes are going to be what we're good at. Sometimes they come too easily and they cause their own problems. 10th house planets, that, and I know I just said the 10th house is what the world needs, but the 10th house planets are often going to describe the career. So especially if you have, the eraser only will erase all, it says. Thank you, Kathy. Okay, so 10th house planets, especially if you have a planet in its rulership. So like Mercury in Gemini in the 10th, or Venus in Libra in the 10th, Mars in Aries in the 10th, or Mars in Scorpio in the 10th, the Sun in Leo in the 10th, the Moon in Cancer in the 10th. When you have a planet in its rulership or exalted in the 10th house, oftentimes that planet's like the star of your career. It might be the exact thing you do. Mercury in the 10th, teaching people how to use their voice, like a speech language pathologist might have Mercury in the 10th in Gemini, or Mercury in the 10th in Virgo. I would say Virgo is more like a researcher, Gemini is more like a teacher, but you might find the exact meaning of that planet shows up in your career. Mercury in the 10th, you're going to speak. Moon in the 10th, you're going to do something nurturing or something with kids or something with the public, etc., etc. So the thing is though, most people can't just look at their chart and go, oh, I have a 10th house planet, that's what I'm going to do. Bam. It's not that simple, because we are complex, because those planets in the chart get activated at different times. So did I, Kathy. It's okay. It's okay. I totally tried to, and then it was like, erase all. I was like, no, all my drawings would go away. Okay. So planets in the 10th will describe your career, but you still don't know based on that when to do what thing, or when that thing is going to be activated, or how to work with it. And this is one of the things I see missing in the astrology community, or at least I see a lot of people, and I was one of these people when I just started with astrology, who came to astrology to find my purpose. Comment below if that's you. Are you one of these people who, Are you one of these people who came to astrology to find your purpose? And if so, how's it going? How's it going now? And I will say, not everyone who comes to an astrology to find your purpose is going to become an astrologer. That's okay. You can. And there can be many types of people who use astrology in many different ways. It's a growing field, etc., etc. And the cool thing about astrology is there really is room to combine your interest with another interest, right? So you can do astrology plus nutrition, and learn about like the body and stuff, and all the different astrological transits, and the different, the way astrology overlaps with whatever field you're in. Um, okay, yeah, so Kathy's saying if it was only based on 10th house planets, I should be a performer of some sort with Sun and Leo in the 10th and Placidus. Okay, yes, however, um, sometimes there, first of all, what is it in whole sign, Kathy? Is it different? And then, yeah, you guys are telling me your 10th house planets. Okay, so empty houses aren't bad, Leisha. So it's okay that houses are empty. I have an empty second house and an empty 10th house as well. It's not a deficiency, it's not negative. And you can still have a career, you can still have a good career. Miss Fortune is saying, I came to astrology for purpose, self knowledge. So neat that a lot of things I've realized over time are actually there in my chart. That's what I love about astrology. I was having a moment last night where I actually was looking at one of my books because I'm running this Saturn course and I wanted to see, well, does this book on Saturn, like, is this going to be a good resource for some of the more everyday indications? Because I want to talk about the psychological stuff. I know I have that side down pat, but I wanted to add in some of the, no, Terry, no, wait, no, I already said no chart readings. Um, in whole sign, it's in the 11th. Okay. Okay. So that's interesting. Um, okay. So I was looking at this book. I was reading it. I was like, are these significations of Saturn going to work for people? Are they going to be like grounded enough? Because I wanted to bring some of the practical side of Saturn and the signs of the houses into this course I'm teaching. And it was insane because it said Saturn in the fourth house, that's mine, has intuition. I was like, oh, even though like I didn't know astrology when I was starting to develop my intuition, and I didn't know that when I started reading tarot, but I started reading tarot around the same time as that's not what it says, Terry. Reread the pinned comment. It's not tell you your purpose for $10. It's answer a question for $10. And it says that. Ask a question. No chart readings. It says that in capital letters. You got to read. Okay, so back to that aha moment I had just last night where I was like, oh, yeah, that makes so much sense because when I had my Saturn return, right around that time is when I started reading tarot. So I started developing my intuition and I was like really developing it. You know what I mean? I was like pulling cards every day and intuitively writing down what they said. And like I was not doing this now, but I would be doing meditations and have like really strong premonition. Like I would be doing dishes and I would be like, I'm going to see so and so today. And I would see that person. Or like when I went to Sedona, some crazy shit, crazy intuition shit. And then just, I don't know why I started developing my intuition at that time, but it was so, just knowing that I was like, oh, this is so validating. And so what was my point? Just that there's going to be, astrology can give you that validation, but it's not the kind of validation that makes decisions for you. And this is one of the things that, is like part of this challenge is that you have to make the decision, right? If you are like, I don't know which job to pursue, you got to decide. You got to be able to decide and do your best to trust that choice, because if you don't make the decision, and this is something people come to me a lot for, is like, should I do this? Should I do this? And I don't love making decisions for people. I love helping you get the information you need to make the decision, because ultimately you have to live with that definition. Kathy, yeah, slowing down and doing something with your knowledge. That makes sense. Um, oh, yeah. I don't know. Found astrology as survival during your Saturn return. Okay. So, that being said, I'm going to erase this insanity and kind of recap what we've talked about so far. And there we go. It's a beautiful clean slate. So, the point here is you can use your astrology to figure out what you love, what the world needs, what you can get paid for, and what you're good at. But I want to talk about this now from an experiential standpoint. So, pretend you don't know astrology. And sometimes I wish, I wish I could just tell people to stop looking for the chart for certain things because the chart doesn't always have every answer. When the answer is experience, sometimes you need to experience the thing and that gives you your answer. So when I started reading tarot, I didn't need someone to tell me to go read tarot. I just needed to go do it and get the experience and see what it felt like and feel like I was guessing and then have people come back and say what you said happened over and over and over and over and over again until finally, at some point, I was like, I guess I'm kind of good at this. Now, if you haven't had that experience, don't worry, you can. But the path to that experience wasn't me figuring out the map, it was me going on the quest. So go on the quest. Don't let the chart stop you from going on the quest. And this process of doing what you love, figuring out what the world needs and what you can be paid for and what you're good at, I want you to see it also from the standpoint of experience, where it's like, okay, I love something. Am I good at it? Could I make this into a skill? If I love writing, could I make that into a skill? If I love tarot, if I love speaking, what do I love? And how do I make that into a skill that I can actually be good at? So, writing, tarot, reading, and then explaining what you know, anything like that. There's lots of things that you could be good at. And sometimes we dismiss the things we're very, very good at because they come so naturally to us that we don't know it's hard for other people. So, Um, so we go from what we love to what we're good at, and sometimes we end up going back and we need to spend some time in this spot. So I would call this stage one, right? And if you're like, but I don't love anything, what are you interested in? Because sometimes when we are, especially when we're working a job we don't like, or we feel like we're in a life that maybe isn't fulfilling to us, it's not really that easy to access what you love and to feel like, oh, I know exactly what that is. Oftentimes we have things in the way that need to be cleared in the process of figuring this out and or habits, and it's like sometimes we'll have a job we don't like and then we'll go home to watch TV and just have habits that are a little bit draining. Not that you can't ever watch TV, but and then we, eat crappy food because we don't care. And it's like a vicious cycle happens where it goes from we don't have the passion and then we're not investing in anything. And then we also lack more passion. And so if you're in a cycle like that, sometimes doing something you enjoy with no intention of monetizing it is the best way to get yourself out of that cycle, because that little bit of time that you did something refreshing and that uplift that you get from that experience puts you in a different state. It puts you in a different state, and from that state you're open to different things. So when I was writing songs, that didn't end up being a moneymaker, and that's cool. I'm fine with that. But if I hadn't just let myself be where I was in that moment and explore something, I would still be doing something that I wasn't really passionate about, and going, I wonder what would have happened if I wrote songs, right? So same with moving to Korea. I thought going to another country was going to be the coolest thing ever. And there was so much about it that was fun. And there was a lot of stuff that really, really sucked. I'm not going to lie. Korea is not the easiest place to live. And I love Koreans. I love all the people that I met. Korean and otherwise. And it was fun learning a new culture, and it was fun doing one-on-ones with adults, and it was fun kind of understanding the difference and just being in a whole different world basically. But it was also really, really hard, and it was really, really crowded, and everything smelled like fish, and culture shock is real, and it was super isolating. And at the time I was in a 12-step program, and that experience of the safety net I had where I was from to going to another country at like 24 years old and becoming like one of the old timers, and like having everyone look to me. And I remember feeling very unsupported at that time. So I'm rambling a little bit, but the point is, sometimes you do what you love and you realize it sucks and you move on. But you have to do the thing. If you don't do the thing, then sometimes you end up thinking you should have done the thing. So if nothing else, when you do what you love, you find out. You find out whether you love it or not when you're in it. And I will talk more about this later. We are trying to go live for 4 hours today, and we've made it about an hour. I think I'm alive past 7 if you're asking me. But I might run out of water, and that's a problem because my water's over there. We'll figure it out though. I remember making a mental note to put it down with me, but then that never happened. But that's okay. We are here. So sometimes you do what you love, you figure out you don't love it. Or you figure out you love it, and then you try to monetize it, and you figure out when you monetize it, you don't love it. And then you move along. So these are things that I can look back and say I did right, even though I didn't know I was doing them right at the time. And that's the thing, is like I can look back and say I lived. I lived in my 20s. I can say that. So moving on now to, figuring out what you're good at. Sometimes this stage of what you're good at is long. Okay, sometimes this is a long stage. For me, this was a very long stage. I hope it's not so long for you, but this stage could be years of not just figuring out what you're good at, but I would say honing your skills, right? Because it's nice when you are practicing a skill that you're naturally good at, because you're going to be a million times better than anyone else at it. And this is why you have to start with what you love. Because if, let's say you're good at something and you hate it with a passion. So like, I'm trying to think of something I'm good at that I hate. Answering the phone. Answering the phone. I'm good at answering the phone. I'm good at like receptionist stuff, but I hate receptionist stuff. So if I had said, I'm going to make this into a business, let's say I just was like, okay, I'll make a business with virtual assistants and I'll train other people. This is a path to hell because I already don't love it. Someone else who loves managing people and marketing and doing all the things about that I hate, they're going to actually do a million times better than me, because when I'm exhausted and I want to go home and escape because I've been doing something I hate all day, that other person who just loves it and thrives in that environment is going to run circles around me. Okay, and this is true for anything. If you don't have an interest in what you're good at all, if it is just a skill and you're mastering that skill and that's all there is to it and there's no passion behind it, then the other person who loves that skill is always going to outwork you. They're always going to outshine you. And just to be clear, I'm not trying to help you guys be the best of the best at something. My goal is to help you, move toward your purpose. And sometimes your purpose is being the best in the field, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's being like the middle person in that field, and that's okay. Like everyone can't actually be the best. It's technically impossible. And I'm not saying you have to be like bad, but the Ikagai isn't about standing out in your field. It's not about being the market leader. It's about creating a life you don't need a vacation from, and feeling good about what you do and feeling like the work that you do helps people and is contributing to society, but also isn't like destroying you. Okay, so let me see if I can edit this comment. What kind of questions do you have about following your purpose right now? What are you stuck on? Okay, Mia Duana, tell me more about that. Why does it feel like a long way to go? What skill do you know what skill you're mastering? So, going back to the idea that like this is why we start with what we love. We don't start with what we're good at and what we can monetize. So, I get stuck in this sometimes, and I'll still get stuck at this. Where like I just want to skip to the efficiency part. I don't want to consider my heart. And this will trip you up every time. And I've been tripped up by this many times. So like something I'm okay at is like making web pages. I would say it's a skill. I remember in middle school, I had like the coolest looking. We had to build a website with HTML, which just shows you how old I am. There wasn't Wix back then. Okay. So we had just had to code it, you know, like I remember taking a class on like intro to something. I don't remember what it was called in middle school, like seventh or eighth grade. It was an elective and my website was so cool looking. It had like a cool ass banner. It had like a black background. It was badass. And so this is something I'm good at, but it's not something I love. And I actually hate a lot of it. So and I sound like such a brat being like, I hate this, but it's true. I do. And like knowing the difference between what you love and what you hate is a block in and of itself. So if you feel blocked on one of these steps and you want to ask me a question on how to, like what real world coaching advice I can give you on how to overcome that block, those are what the questions are for. Yes, Leisha, the good old MySpace days. That's exactly what it is. Okay, so what you love versus what you're good at. If you don't have any passion about it, if you don't have any care for that thing, if you don't have anything in your heart that's guiding you, you'll burn out, you'll lose steam, and usually what will happen is you won't be able to get that thing off the ground, or if you do, you'll just feel so tired and worn out. Then yeah, that's why we start with what we love. And we always want to come back to what we love, and we always want to, you know, bring ourselves. And even if you are someone who's like, I don't know what I love, or you feel blocked from that energy of your heart, you can actually honestly just choose to focus on your heart. I have a meditation on my YouTube channel for something like cultivating love. I made that meditation for that reason, because you can actually cultivate the energy of love. You can cultivate any emotion. And this is getting into monk shit, but it's true. You can cultivate an emotion. You can choose to not stop feeling stressed or stop feeling anything, but just choose to invite love in on top of that. You know, just layer some love, layer some heart centered peace on top of what you feel in any moment, anytime, to help you connect with the energy of your heart. Because a lot of us are disconnected from our heart, and that's okay. So that's one of the things that stops people. And like I said, I do have a list of 10 things we'll go through later on in this broadcast. So you figured out what you love at least a little bit. And if you don't love it, what do you like? And if you're not even, like, if you can't even say what you like, what can you stand? Okay, so depending on where you are in life, there was a point where I didn't like anything. I hated my job. I hated everything. So if I could just stand something, like I could stand it to do a certain thing, you know, I could stand being a paralegal. I could stand it. I didn't like it, but I could stand it. So you just want to move a little bit closer to love from where you are. If you're hating where you are, you want to go to where you can stand it. If you just can stand it, then you want to like it. And maybe if you can't go that far, maybe you just get curious about it. Then you like it. Then you like it more. Then you love it. So just go one little layer, one little step beyond where you are in terms of wherever you're at right now. Terry, I'm not answering astrology questions. And I'm going to block you if you ask another one. You can, Kathy. You can look at the closest by degree. Um, yeah, you can. I don't actually, to be honest, I haven't studied that. I haven't studied which one to focus on. I would just try them all and see what like gets you somewhere and see if one is obviously more applicable to career, right? So like sometimes people have a biquintal that's like they're really good at giving people directions. You know, like so sometimes Terry, you need to follow the instructions. Phoenix, maybe I'll do that at some point. Okay, so what you love, and like I said, you want to go from what you love, like what, just go one step beyond where you are. Yeah, okay, Mia, this is a very important point. So Mia says, I've been hesitant to connect to what I truly love because of fear of being ostracized for it. I love the occult and psychology, not sure how to make it work where I am. So sometimes you need to, this falls under becoming the person that can handle that thing. And what that means is creating a network of support, even if it's not huge, of people who would not ostracize you if you followed that purpose, if you followed that passion. It doesn't always mean cutting off those family members who don't like it. I mean, I have family members who like will always be like, I'm afraid of the death card in tarot, or just say things that are really ignorant and have nothing to do with what I even do. But it's their, it's their own mentality. I'm not going to try to change them, but I'm not going to them for support either. So and that's kind of a longer topic. I love the question, but it's like, what do you do when you're afraid of what you want? Well, you either do something else or you get over the fear. And I know I'm kind of not mincing words on this, but it's like this was a real part of my journey where I wanted to do all this stuff too, but I was afraid of everyone hating me. And I don't know exactly how I overcome it. I just kept doing it. So I just keep doing it. And when something happens that triggers that fear, I just walk through it, if that makes sense. Maybe I'll do a separate video on that, like how to get over that fear, like step by step. Okay, so you need to love it or like it or have some interest in it. And this process of getting to what you love sometimes involves some deconditioning. So, there was a path for me from when I went to South Korea where a lot of that was just me deconditioning from a lot of the things I had been taught. And so sometimes you need to get around people who are doing that thing until it becomes a normal thing to be doing. That's kind of the way to do that. And okay, so what you love, what you're good at, what you can be paid for, and what the world needs. I would say these two are like after, so first you need to be having that passion. And passion doesn't mean you're excited about it every day, because when you're good at something and you're building a skill, you don't always feel the passion every single day, but you do have a reason to do it, something strong enough inside of you that compels you to do the thing. Then you can get connected to a mission, which is like how you want to help the world. This is a part people get stuck on, this is going from passion to mission. And the biggest thing I see that gets people stuck on this is they're too in themselves. They're thinking about, how do I do, like they're in their head thinking about, how do I plan this and how does it work for me? So there's this whole process of going from the skill to, being willing to do the skill in a way that people want it and people need it, and it works for people to have it. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Phoenix Evolution. And So getting your passion to your mission, this is the whole process of in and of itself. But it's hard to connect to a mission when you feel like you're lost or you don't quite know who you are. It's really hard to just grab something. Now, there are some people who start here. Some people start here. I'm not one of these people, but some people start with seeing a problem in the world. Like, let's say someone sees there's pollution in the ocean. And let's say they have the skill of managing people. Well, maybe that person starts a nonprofit to clean up pollution in the ocean. And it's just like bing, 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 which, that makes it sound really easy. I don't know what that process is like. And so I want to let you guys know that is a path to this. It's not the path that I really teach just because it's not the path that I've gone on. But there's nothing wrong with doing it that way. Do not start here. If you start here, you have a job. And if you have to have a job, you have to have a job. That's fine. But don't start here. Don't start unless and the only reason to start here is if you need money right now. If you need money right now, what can you be paid for? What's the best thing you can be paid for that you're the best at, that you can get paid the most for in the least amount of time? Now you have a job. Awesome. Jobs are good. We need money for jobs. And so nothing wrong with having a job, but when you're trying to do this whole thing, when you start with what you can be paid for, you often end up totally ditching what you love. And sometimes you don't even do what you're good at. And sometimes you forget what the world needs, right? So the world needs, this is my version, the world needs astrologers to help guide them toward their purpose. This is my version. But if I started what I'm going to be paid for, I'd be talking about all the modern astrology stuff that I don't believe in, and the world doesn't need it, in my opinion. And I know that that's going to, some people are not going to agree with that, but the world does not need someone else telling them they're a starseed. I don't care. If you are a starseed, go ahead and be a starseed. But the world doesn't need that. I don't think the world needs more people taking people out of this reality into that next reality. I think the world needs more spiritual people, bringing people back into their bodies, into their souls, having an embodied experience of doing something that makes you useful and helps the world. That's what I think the world needs. So I'm not going to start with what I'd be paid for, because then I will do the things that are popular that I don't believe in. And that'll take me on a track that, even though it feels good at the moment, it satisfies. It's kind of like giving the inner child a piece of candy, right? So doing the thing that is popular, even though you don't believe in it. Now, I'm not talking about doing something more mainstream, like taking something that is helpful and making it more mainstream so that people get it more, making it digestible to the masses. I'm saying taking something you don't believe in, you don't want to be doing, and doing it because it's quick or it's fast or it works or it's going to make more money now, right? Like anything to get rich quick, or something that you really don't believe in, but you just need the money. I'm not saying you can't make money right now doing something that just makes money. I'm talking about truly selling out, and that is going to be like selling out against your own values. Okay. And sometimes when people say people sell out, they're actually just saying you don't live by my own values. So that's like a whole different thing. But what you can be paid for, you don't want to start with where's the money. You can start with, is this a market that is growing? Is this a growing market? Is there a future in this? That's a good place to start if you want to have a long-term plan in business. So, but oftentimes just what you can be paid for, when the world doesn't need it, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that because it sucks. And what's the point of trying to live out your purpose if it sucks anyway? Like you could just have a job and work for someone else and it's going to suck. Why work so hard on something and then to feel like, it's just not helping people? Um, okay, so I'm just checking on the comments here. I feel like what I can be good at, Kathy, is not for a lot of people, but maybe that's my own limited belief. I would say test it. Test it some way, measure it, research it, try to find out, question that, challenge it. And one way people do this is they actually look for other people doing that thing and see if it exists. Now, this is a limiting way to look at it because sometimes there's a market for something that hasn't been created yet. So Miss Fortune says, sounds like people going to university and picking just whatever is lucrative. I think that's okay though. To me, that's not the worst thing. I think it's when you pick something you feel like you're selling your soul. So like if I started working in the oil industry or like I started working in I don't know, for McDonald's or something, something I'm against, which I shouldn't say I'm against McDonald's because I've eaten there ever. But like, I'm not really a fan of the GMO food. So like, I'm not going to go work for a company that embodies those values. To me, that's what I'm saying about what you can be paid for. But yeah, then getting burnt out. Okay, now I'm seeing the rest of it. Yes. Okay, so Mia, I want to offer practical help. Yep. Yeah. And that's like, I mean, that's a good place to start. You don't have to know everything today. So I think now is a good time for me to get some more water. And then we will go on to the next segment of our live today, which is going to be 10 steps you can take to follow your purpose. And I'm going to just do that. I'm going to turn off my camera and I'll be back in like 1 second. So it's a good time if you guys need a break. It's a good time for a break. This will take me less than like 3 minutes. Okay. That was like 10 seconds. Okay, guys, questions so far? I'm so thirsty. You guys who know me know I get really, really thirsty on lives. It's like a thing. No matter what I do, it's just what happens. And I never remember to drink water beforehand, ever. And I hate it because I hate drinking water on camera. Okay, so. Oh, yeah, exactly, Miss Fortune. Miss Fortune saying just the time that most people are told to go to school, they don't know their values yet. Yes. Yes, I think this is unfortunate that we sort of treat people when they're 18 like they should know what to do with the rest of their life and put them in a position where they're taking out debt that they'll be paying back for the rest of their life. And there it's just not necessary. Okay, thanks, Kathy. Good to see you. And let's go on now to our 10 steps And we'll see if this looks all right. I might just have to say them. We'll see. For anyone who's been on this whole live, you guys know it was a shit show earlier with the technology, but that's on me. Let's see if we can just move this. No, move this. That kind of works. It just needs to be like there. Okay. We went over the Ikagai. Oh, did that mess it up? No, that's good. Okay. So this will be good. Okay, so number one, stop asking what you can do. And so this is what I did for a long time. So all these things I'm telling you not to do, or should I actually did. So don't get all upset or anything, and just know I did it too. Number one, stop asking what you can do. So can I be a tarot reader? Can I be an astrologer? Do I have the placements to be an astrologer? Can I do this kind of work? I don't know. Can you? Nobody can tell you what you can do. And when you are in that state of asking, can I? This is something that it's okay to start with a question, but it needs to be followed up by something to validate. Go find out if you can. That's what you should do. If you're asking the question, can I be an astrologer? Go find out if you can. Try. That's how you'll know if you can. And if you don't try and you let someone else tell you what you can and can't do, man, that's just like, that's one of the worst things. Because it's like, that's like an acorn asking someone, can I be an oak tree? And everyone's like, I don't know. You don't need to ask the question. The acorn does not ask, can I be an oak tree? The acorn is just like, I think I need some water and some sunlight and shit. So just give yourself the tools you need to cultivate the interest you have, and then do the thing. And if you can't do the thing in the way that you want to do it, figure something else out. Okay, so if you want to be an astrologer, be an astrologer. And if you find out after a year of learning astrology that it's too hard, maybe then you will find something else you do with astrology that's different. Right? Maybe, you think you want to do tarot readings, and then you find you don't like doing them for people. So then maybe you end up learning about the history of tarot and writing a book about tarot. So asking, can I do a thing? It's an okay place to start, but you don't want to get stuck here. Can I do Reiki? Can I do this as a business? Really, I want you to shift this. If you are in this space of can I, and let me know in a comment below if this is where you are. If you're in a space that you're wondering, can I do this? Can I do this? The only way to answer the question, can I do it, is to just do it. And to decide you're going to do it, and then do it. Now, when you're new to trying to cultivate your purpose, this will be really, really hard, because you have to grow a thing strong enough to claim it. And let me know, you guys, if you can relate to what I'm talking about. But you have to grow something strong enough to claim it. So this will happen where this happened to me, where I would kind of like want someone else to give me permission to do what I wanted to do, or I wanted to believe, or I wanted some kind of guarantee. Like I wanted to feel like I was on the right path when I just first started, but that's not when the validation comes. The validation doesn't come on day one, usually. Even though in some ways it did. Like when I started reading tarot, I got validation right away that I was good at it. But that validation that I was good at it did not validate that I would have a business and that I would be successful and that I would be able to make it work. Nobody can tell you what you can or cannot do, because nobody knows how hard you are going to try to overcome what's stopping you. And there are some things that for us are so out of alignment, they are so not right for us, that if we were to go try it, it would be a train wreck because we just wouldn't have the skills. And that does happen sometimes, but most of us are not that far off track. And no one can tell you, yes, you can, or no, you can't. There's some times where you might have like people around you who give sound advice. And there's a way to kind of validate with your own experience whether you are good at something. But if you're in a space where you're like, can I do this? Can I do it? Yes, you can, but are you willing to do it? Instead of can I do it, am I willing to overcome the obstacles that are going to come up along the journey? That's what you have to know. And if you're like, if you only want it to be easy, maybe no. Maybe the answer is no. That was really empowering and inspiring. So, but oftentimes, again, this goes back to if you try the thing, you will know that you can do it or not do it. I wanted to know if I could be a singer and songwriter. And I tried recording a song with someone and I didn't like the experience. So I learned, no, I can't do it. Now, if I was willing to go, I don't like the experience, but I still want to do it, I'm going to overcome those obstacles, then I could have done it. That's all it takes to do something, is to learn how to do it. And we got to get out of this idea of waiting for our chart to validate what we want. It's nice when it does, but we shouldn't need it to. So, number 2, try stuff. Sometimes you don't know until you try. Sometimes you do not know how cool a thing is going to be until you try it, or you don't know how much you hate it or suck at it until you try it. Okay, sometimes you have to jump in a little, and the faster you jump in, even if it's just a baby step, the faster you figure it out. It might be a winding journey, but you need to try stuff. This keeps your energy moving, and it helps you to get the feedback. You cannot live out your purpose without the feedback, where it's not confirmation, it's feedback. Like when people gave me feedback that what I would say in a reading would happen, that was feedback. And when people never came back for another reading, that was also feedback. Stuff like that. When people give referrals, that's really good feedback that you're doing something right. And if you're not in a place where you're getting a lot of referrals, that's okay. But if you're doing any kind of service, that's your goal. Your goal is to become someone who is so good that people are getting referred to you. Okay. Next thing to kind of not do is don't try to define what your purpose is on day 1. This will trip you up because your mind wants to do this. When we have an interest, our mind, and when we're not sure about our future, and let me know if you guys feel this way or if this is just me or just some people. Oftentimes when we're not sure about our future, we want to come up with a plan, because when we have a plan, we feel more secure even if we're not. Even if it doesn't make us any more secure, there's something about the mind wants to know. The mind wants to have that sense of security. And because that's what the mind wants, we will just gravitate toward, okay, I like this thing. Can I do a future in it? So don't try not to do that. Try not to do that, because the path is always going to unfold and it's never going to be what you think. And if you're acting out from this place of, I just want the security of knowing what my path is going to be so I can feel secure, you're not any more clear on your path. You just told yourself you were. So the more you can get okay with not defining it, letting your purpose be undefined, and seeing yourself as the person on the quest, forging through the path, who will always be the one taking the next step on the path, that's always going to be you. That's always going to be you. And even if you have the perfect map, sometimes there's a tree in the way and you got to go around it or climb over it or overcome the obstacle. So try not to get too stuck in defining what your purpose is when you're trying to find it. And you can always go back to the metaphor of you're not trying to find your purpose, you're trying to build it. Do not set a long-term goal, then just try to master. Okay, this is actually not a do not, this is a do. Set your long-term goal, But don't try to master the longer term goal. Try to master the next step. I'm going to use my YouTube channel as an example of this. I would not set realistic goals for my YouTube channel getting better. I would just think I want to make better videos. But making better videos isn't a goal and it's not measurable, so it's not something I could do. So I would make a video and I wouldn't change anything, and I would think I want better videos, and then I wouldn't change anything. But when I started to try to make each video make one positive change, then suddenly I got so much better at making videos. And I know my videos aren't like the best videos on the planet, but they're a lot better now because, one time I changed the audio. I got a new microphone. And then the next time I learned how to edit the audio so it sounded better. And then after that, I got a ring light. And then after that, I learned a little bit more about how to angle my phone the right way. And then after that, one other thing. And then, little teeny steps got me to the long-term goal faster than trying to make one massive leap. Trying to make a quantum leap doesn't work because when we're trying to make a quantum leap, we're not usually focusing on what we need to do to get better. We're usually putting it outside of us. And let me know if this is resonating, you guys. I'm just going to check in on the comments. Let's see. Yeah, answers don't always fall from the sky, and we don't always get the confirmation. Sometimes we have to do a thing for a while before we get true confirmation. Okay, so the next thing here, more about setting that long-term goal and just mastering the next step. This is true for anything, and it really works. It really works when you can break it down to one skill at a time, and this kind of goes back to becoming the person who can handle the life you want or the success you want. And this is another thing. You cannot master the last step. You can only master the step in front of you right now. When you're trying to master the last step, usually there's a disconnect. There's something not right here. This could be that you're on a path you don't want to be on. You could be sabotaging yourself. Just because when we're so focused on the outcome, but we can't apply it to the moment, sometimes that's because we're not doing the right thing or our head's not in the game. So, that would be like me when I wanted to be a singer thinking, oh, someday I'll be famous. But it's like, be famous, that's not a measurable goal. But writing an album is. Can you see the difference between someone who wants to be famous versus someone who wants to write an album? I can write an album. I could start right now. I could grab a piece of paper and a pencil and I could get my guitar and I could start strumming some tunes. I'm not going to do that. But you could do that right now. That's doable. So when we're focusing on the next doable thing, we are embodying our purpose, and that gets us to where we want to be faster. When we cannot do the next thing, sometimes that wasn't for you. Sometimes that means your head isn't aligned with your heart. And I'm going to give an example from my life that I wrote down notes on here. And the example is, when I lived in South Korea, I had a friend who liked going to these temple stays, and you could go stay at a temple and meditate and meditate. That's like what you do. You meditate. Maybe you do chores and stuff, and you eat Buddhist food and which is, I think, vegetarian food. but there's all these Buddhist temples and monks and stuff in South Korea. Although there's a lot of Christianity there too now. But my friend would always do these temple stays, and I remember being like, I want to do that. And she was talking about how she meditated so long one day. I was like, gosh, I wouldn't want to do that. And I remember her saying, that's what a temple stay is. So if you're going to go, you'll be meditating all day, And I remember being like, I don't think I clicked at the moment, but this is an example of me thinking I wanted something I didn't really want. If I could not sit down and meditate for 5 minutes, then I do not want to go meditate for 3 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours. So sometimes we just think the thing is cool and we romanticize it. If you can't do the thing for 5 minutes, you don't want to do it for the rest of your life. Trust me. Now, sometimes the reason we're not doing the thing isn't because it's not the right thing. Sometimes it's because we're not in a stage where we're honoring or listening to the call inside of us. So you need to differentiate those things when you're looking at this part of it. When you want to do something for your purpose, but you find you're not doing it, either one, you're trying to force yourself to do something you don't want to do, and you really truly don't want to do it, or you might be sabotaging something you know you enjoy. So there's a difference, and you really, only your inner voice is going to tell you that, right? So it's like, there are times where I try to force myself to do stuff because I think it's going to work for marketing. This happened yesterday on my Instagram, where I tried going live talking about Saturn because I'm running a course on Saturn. So I'm trying to make content that like goes with it. But all I wanted to talk about was Pluto. And I tried going live and I couldn't, I literally went live, started talking, ended the live on Saturn. And I did it again. I went live. I started live. I started talking. I couldn't do it. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm talking about Pluto then. And I'm still going to advertise my course on Saturn. So I did. But it was like, I really had to try so hard to do what my soul didn't want to do, when really there was a part of me that just really needed to talk about Pluto that day. So that's kind of an interesting example, because we'll try to force ourselves. And for those of you who try to force yourself, let me know if you're one of these people who tries to force yourself. Okay, so another thing to watch out for is don't try, I'm going to stop sharing this. Don't try to change your whole life on a dime. This is another thing we get caught up on. And I got caught up on this a lot because I was trying to live out my purpose, but it's like I was doing it from my head instead of my heart. I would try to strategize a way to move forward on my purpose, and I would want it to all be up here. Like, if only I do this, and if I plan this, and if I do it like this, and if I make this strategy, and then I would try to change my whole life on a dime, and I couldn't do it because, of course, that's hard to do. I would actually buy these coaching programs and then try to be a coach, and then I couldn't do it. I couldn't do what it said to do. I couldn't finish the steps that it told me to do. And this would be a problem I would have. And then I would jump into some different course later and think that if I just, I believed it had to be massive. I believed it had to be sexy. I believed it had to be all of a sudden. I believed I had to be excited and passionate and working really hard and hyped up. And there was this frantic energy that I thought was building your purpose, that I mistaked for it, that was really just kind of the anxiety that I would get from pushing myself harder than I needed to go. And I thought that was a high that you needed, because I would hear all this messaging saying, winners wake up at 6 a.m. and you got to have a daily schedule, and, you got to eat perfectly. And if you're, just all this self-help, blah, blah, blah nonsense, which some of it's true. But a lot of it's people just trying to sell you their shit. And a lot of it's myth and misconception about how, if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life. I'm making fun of that. And some coaching courses are very good. I do have to say that. And I have a coaching course that I jumped into that I did not need at the time, but I'm still in it, and I still get value out of it. So it's not that all coaches are bad. It's that I didn't know what I needed, so anyone could sell me anything, because, they would just tell me what I needed, and I'd be like, yeah, I need that. And I would just, be like a moth to the flame. So your job is to stop being the moth if you're in that space. And I've really learned how to read a sales page and ask myself, do I need this one thing at this step of my journey? And this is a skill you can build as well. Okay, so the next thing, one of the things that can help you succeed, this is number 6, put yourself in the ring as soon as possible. I see a lot of people make this mistake, and a lot of clients will come to me saying they want to do something and they're not doing it. and like, we'll talk about what's going on inside of them that's causing them to hold back, and what that is. Because that's all I can do as an astrologer is be like, okay, you have this tendency, you have this transit, this is good timing, you really want to be ready by this time, etc., etc. But really, on this one, putting yourself in the ring as soon as possible will help, because you cannot build your purpose in a vacuum. And if you are just, if you are just trying to figure it out with your mind, and looking at your astrology chart and trying to define what you're supposed to do, and doing what I used to do, which is just getting stuck in your head, getting in the ring as soon as possible doesn't mean going beyond where you're ready to go. It just means, gently pushing yourself into that next step outside of the comfort zone. And the reason this is important, and I learned this not that long ago, that anytime I do something new on my journey that is new, so like even doing this live for so long is new. So it's a little bit different. The first time I went live, the first videos I made, all these things were new. So they felt different. Whenever we do something new, our nervous system kicks up and says, wait, don't do that. That's not familiar. Therefore, it is not safe. And so I've learned that when I'm pushing myself out of my comfort zone, that feeling is going to be there. And if I listen to that feeling, there is no winning there. And I have learned that the only way to get rid of that feeling is to do that thing enough times that my body feels comfortable and safe doing it, because now this becomes the new normal. And that is true for everything. Anything you haven't done before, you'll be a little bit nervous. Maybe not super nervous, but a little bit nervous. Like on a first day of school, or a first job, or a first kiss, or a first date, or an interview, or going live, or let's say, I guess for me, I'm trying to think of what it would be for me. Maybe like when I go on other people's podcasts still, this is a thing as of right now, that my nervous, like I'm still really excited and like get kind of nervous about it. But I also know that the only way through that feeling is to just do that thing enough times that I don't feel nervous anymore. And because I know this, I'm not going to avoid that next thing because it feels uncomfortable. And this is a thing people do wrong when they're trying to follow their purpose, is that they will, they'll try to do something, and the second they get to that feeling, they're like, no, because it's not comfortable. So that is something to watch out for, is that just because you have that feeling of like nervousness doing something for the first time doesn't mean that it's not the right thing. And I hear people say, like, I want to have a YouTube channel, but I'm afraid of being on video. Then go get on video. Go get on video. It feels like the biggest thing when you are not doing it, but it's like the only thing that's going to make that go away is if you get on video. There is no other way through that. The only way through fear is through fear. And if you're in a place right now where that is stopping you, go do it. Go do it, because if you are in a place where that is stopping you, that is you stopping yourself. And the only way to stop doing that is you got to stop doing that. You got to see those moments where you're afraid to do a thing and just do it. This happened when I first started seeing clients too. I would be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this astrology reading. I would be afraid that I wouldn't be able to answer their question. And you know what happened? Some of my astrology readings in the beginning, I couldn't answer their question. Guess what? It was okay. I'm alive. And I learned. And in that case, sometimes having a plan for what to do in that scenario will actually help you. So if I'm in a reading and I can't answer someone's question, then I learn how to answer that question. Or I try to tell people, don't ask me these kind of questions, one or the other. It's not that big of a deal. And what I mean by that is, your job the way to move through a situation like that where you're afraid of the next step, even though that next step isn't really the thing you got to do, you can give yourself a way to deal with it. Worst case scenario, this happens, then what do? I do this, I do this, I do this. Face the fear. And sometimes just doing the thing, you face the fear because it happens. When I was newer on YouTube, I was afraid of negative comments. And I remember the first negative comment I ever got was someone commenting that I looked like I was looking at a screen and I was just reading off of Google, which wasn't true. And they were like, you don't know anything about Aquarius, which, as much as you know, I don't hate Aquariuses or anything, but if anyone's going to talk down to me and be rude to me, it's always going to be an Aquarius. Because there's just part of and here's what I'll say. Some of the negative embodiment of that sign, not everyone's like this, but the negative side of Aquarius is I know better than you do. And so this person was like, you don't know Aquarius, blah, 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 blah. So I remember that comment because I was like, oh my God. And it just it was a big deal in my life that I got this negative comment, which now looking back on it, I'm like, I mean, I could tell you the story because I had an emotional reaction and I remember it, but does it matter? Does it matter? Not really. And so I had to become a bigger person in order to handle those negative comments because they're just going to be a part of the deal. Okay. The next thing is so part of putting yourself in the ring is not just about going through the feeling in your nervous system of like getting comfortable with that thing and being that way. Part of putting yourself in the ring is also about making sure you like that thing in real life. If you want to write a book, can you write one page? If you can't sit and write one page, you might not really want to write a book, etc., etc. If you want to be a painter, buy some paint and start painting. If you want to be a singer, start singing. I mean, it seems so obvious. I feel like I'm being rude, but it's true. Like, I don't know how many times in my own life I've thought I wanted to do something, but I didn't do the single first thing that needed to be done to actually do the thing. And so sometimes telling ourselves we want something is a way of escaping from where we are. And, sometimes we tell ourselves we want something because we can't face the fact that our life is the way it is, and it's like, I don't know, it'd be like, I'm trying to think of something totally not me that I would want to do, but think of someone who's like smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and they're like 75 and they're like, I want to be a model. You're probably not going to be a model when you're 75. Maybe some 75-year-olds will, but it's like someone who's like eating really, really bad food every day, watching TV all day, and they're like, I want to be a bodybuilder. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes we do this because we can't stand where we are. So this is why putting yourself into the ring as soon as possible fixes it. Because if you are really wanting to be a bodybuilder, you'll start lifting some weights. And if you can't do that step, either you got some stuff you got to deal with, or you don't really want to be a bodybuilder. And I know I'm kind of going off on this, but I think a lot of us get stuck here where we create these intentions or goals that are not just not realistic, but like don't match out of a escape. Or we tell ourselves we're going to do something because it feels good to say it and it's not real. Do you guys relate? Have any of you done this? Like, I remember after I majored in Spanish, I remember being like, well, I could go to another country someday and get better at Spanish, and I could do this and I could do that, and I didn't do any of it. And I remember driving down the street one day and being like, you know what? I don't fucking want to. I don't want to. I don't want to use Spanish. I just felt guilty that I didn't use it. And so I kept telling myself I was going to do it in the future because I felt like I should. Because I wasted 4 years of my life and a lot of fucking money on a useless degree. So going to that moment of being like, you know what, I don't want to, even though it didn't feel good, was better than continuing to tell myself this story that someday I'm going to do it someday. If you have to put someday in front of a thing, don't say it to yourself. And I'm kind of telling myself this right now because I do this shit a lot. Someday I'm going to not move anymore. Ugh, someday. Someday. Okay. I'm skipping number 7 because we talked about this. 7, okay. 7 is let it be okay where you are. Let it be okay where you are. So that's going to be just being okay with the step you're on. That kind of goes back to the ability to come back to present and go to, if you want to be a writer and you're not a writer, becoming okay with the fact that you're not a writer and you want to be. If you try to be farther, it's going to mess you up because no matter how far you get, there will be a next goal. And you know, there is something really beautiful about the early stages of any journey, even though it kind of sounds really cliche. But if I look back to like the first astrology videos I did and like the first lives that were like 12 people and like those moments when I was working at I actually started doing tarot readings at a bead store for $5. And lots of people would come in, and the lady at the bead store was just so supportive of me. She got all her friends to come, and like her friends would have me come do tarot parties and stuff. It was so amazing to have so much support, and I'm so grateful for those days. But there's something really special about the beginning of any journey, whether you're singing for for an audience of 3 people, or whether you are doing an astrology reading for 1 person, or, you know, doing a YouTube video for 12 people, there's something amazingly precious about the beginning of a journey. And it doesn't feel like that until you're outside of it. So whatever you don't like about your journey right now, if you get bigger or better at what you're doing, you will miss something about it. And okay, here's one. When in doubt, just learn a new skill. If you don't know what to do in your purpose and you have no direction and you're just like, I don't know what to do, one thing I recommend is a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. This book was really helped me kind of unblock my creativity. It will not necessarily tell you what to do with your life, but it does help you get over some of the obstacles that we have that get in the way that we don't know are getting in the way. Like one of them, for example, is that we have ideas about what we should do at different times of our life. And that's like one of the activities that I remember is it tells you like what to do. Like it gives you this activity. If I were 18, what would my goal be? If I were 35, what would my goal be? If I were 80, what would my goal be? And you write out these different dreams of different ages, and then it kind of has you question, why not? Why can you only do that when you're 18? Why can you only do that? Like you can only have a garden when you're old. Apparently in my mind, you can only have a garden when you're old, but I don't have a garden or anything, but but the point is, this is a good book. And it helps you. And I'm getting sidetracked. When in doubt, learn a new skill. If you don't know anything else to do, just go do something. Start journaling every day. Start, you know, doing a skill that's like not like walking or like, you know, that would only be if you're like really not doing very good. In that case, that would be a great next step. But like an actual skill, you know, like writing, like learning creative writing. If you've always wanted to learn creative writing, or learning to paint, or learn a new skill. If you're in doubt, learn a new skill, even if it's unrelated. It does something, it moves the energy, and it kind of, you know, it kind of tells the universe like I'm open. It moves that energy, it gets you in a different state, and in that different state, you can make steps forward. The only wrong choice is doing nothing. And a lot of people at this stage of their purpose will be like, what if I make the wrong choice? What if I choose the wrong job? Now, there are times where you do need to think about your choice, especially when you're investing a lot of money, you know, or you're committing to something that you have to make a long commitment to. If you don't have to make a long commitment, just pick something. Pick something. Because if it's the wrong choice, you'll know very soon, But if you don't pick anything and it's the wrong choice, you're not going to know. You're just going to sit there. So imagine a choice in front of you. Like, should I do this with my life or do this with my life? And imagine you do nothing. Where are you going to be in 6 months? You're going to be in the same place you were. And that's the wrong choice. The wrong choice is to do nothing and in 6 months still be sitting with that same choice. You have no feedback from the universe. You have no new data to make any different decision. So when you don't know what to do and there's no obvious choice, pick the easiest thing that you could just do, because you must put energy out. You must take some action in order to get feedback from the universe, in order to get new data. Oh, there's a book that keeps coming to my mind. Hold on. What's it called? I'm going to Google it. For some reason, I feel like I need to tell you guys about this book. What is it called? I don't know what it's called, but I listened to it so many times. I'll have to get back to you guys, but it's by Price Pritchett. And I just like the words from that audio are just like echoing in my mind right now about there's like this story about a fly. Oh, it's about the fly. Dude, I'm having the weirdest deja vu right now. The story is about this fly that keeps hitting in the window, right? So like, imagine you're a fly and you keep hitting the same window, right? What do? You back up and you bam, you hit it again. The fly doesn't know there's a door over there. And if you just like took a totally different approach, you could get where you need to be. How does that relate to what I was just talking about? The idea that doing nothing is the wrong choice. This made sense in my mind. This really did make sense. Doing nothing is the wrong choice. And it's because you need to do something new. That's the point of that story of the fly with the window. This seems so like duh, yeah. If you do the same thing, you'll get the same thing. But it's like, you need to come at it from a different perspective. And sometimes the way we do that in our life is just by shaking it up a little bit. Sometimes it's by gaining a new skill. But when we say, I'm afraid I'm going to make the wrong choice, and we do nothing, we are like the fly just hitting the window over and over and over and wondering why everyone else is outside enjoying their life, having a life of freedom, and we're over here working at the same job, doing the same thing that's not making us happy. So the last one is become the person who can handle the success. Now this sounds a lot easier, but it actually is. This is a thing you can actually do and you can actually practice. If you want to do a thing, the fastest way to manifest, if you want to manifest it, is to become the person who can handle the thing that you're asking for. So if I want to have I want to think of a different example besides myself. So if somebody wants to be a model, let's say somebody wants to be a model. Well, they would need to become someone who can get a modeling gig. Who can get a modeling gig? Someone who knows their angles, who can do their makeup really nicely, who has headshots, maybe knows some poses, has some example, has a portfolio. So this is a pretty clear-cut process of okay, you just become the person who can have that thing. But when it comes to our purpose, sometimes it gets a lot more confusing because our purpose is unique to us. No one else is doing it the way we're doing it, and there's no guidebook. And we are sort of conditioned in a society to think that because of how we are taught in school, the method of teaching is we're taught not to think for ourselves. We're taught there's a right answer. And we're taught that if you don't get the right answer, you are wrong and you're going to fail. And we try to apply this to business and it doesn't work because you cannot get the right answer in business. You got to do shit. And you got to be able to look at and even if you're not trying to have a business, if you're just trying to live out your purpose in a way that doesn't involve having a business, you still can't have that employee mindset of someone needs to tell me what to do and I'll fulfill the role. You have to have a more, enterprising mindset in order to create your purpose, because this is a path you are forging. And, I'm always going to bring it back to Joseph Campbell, which is, if you are following someone else's path, it's not the right path, because that's not the hero's journey. The hero's journey is not to follow somebody else's path. The hero's journey is to carve your own path. And that means sometimes you're going to go the wrong way and you'll have to turn around and figure out where backtrack a little bit. And sometimes it means you need to sharpen your machete and just go straight through the woods. And sometimes you're going to be alone. And sometimes you're not going to know what to do. And sometimes you're not going to know if you're making the right choice. And I can't tell you how many times I was like, I don't know if this is the right choice. But the point is not to get to be the person who only makes good choices. The point is to stop being the fly in the window and get out of what is blocking you and become the person who can get out of the same room you've been in your whole life. Become the person who can have the breakthrough. And I can't tell you how many, you guys, I've launched so many courses that failed that nobody fucking bought. I've gone live before and have nobody come on the video. I've had videos that tanked. I still have videos that don't do very well sometimes. I've had, I've done everything you could possibly do wrong in a business. And the only thing that I've really done right is that I didn't let that be a reason to quit. And I'm not saying you have to go fail at everything and be horrible, but I'm giving you permission to move forward on your purpose right now, wherever you are, and take the next step to become the person who can handle the thing you want. And sometimes when we are blocked or we feel stuck on our purpose, this can help you get out of that feeling, because it gives you that way of going from being the fly in the window who just keeps hitting the window by using the same tools and the same mindset, that mindset we're taught in school that there's a right or a wrong answer and someone's going to give it to you. And if you just follow someone else's answer, you're going to, I don't know, like it's safer. This is why people end up getting screwed in these get rich quick schemes, because you believe that someone else can teach you something that, don't get me started on that. It's like those people get rich off of you because nobody who ever got rich did it by buying someone else's course on getting rich. And most people who got really good at what they're doing didn't have someone holding their hand telling them, do this, do this, do this. A lot of them just figured out what worked and then did more of that, and figured out what didn't work and did less of that. And so becoming the person who can handle your success, this really helps you get from that mindset of the fly in the window to the fly who just goes out the door, where sometimes there's a need to take a different approach, but it's not about winning the lottery or waiting for some magic moment to happen. It's about becoming the person who can handle the thing you think you want. Because when we're aligned with that way of doing things, this is when we end up realizing, oh, that thing I thought I wanted, that I tried to get good at, when I was volunteering to teach elementary school, and I realized I couldn't even get through the volunteer hours because I hated it so much. That was a perfect example of me trying to become the thing I wanted to be and realizing in the process, this is not right for me. If you are trying to become the person who can handle the future you want, you will either immediately know, you will know faster what parts are not aligned, because you either won't be able to do it, or it'll be a train wreck, or you will identify faster the next step you need to take in order to have, do, or be that thing. Okay. Do you guys have questions on that? Even as a model, you need not, Jasmine saying, you need not only be beautiful, but unique as well. That is true. That is true. But I think maybe that's part of of becoming that thing is finding what's unique about you. Um, yeah, and like you said, it's a skill set. Yeah, and I think this is kind of one of the misconceptions of our society. And I think our society, a lot of people in our society have kind of a victim mindset. And I used to. I used to have a victim mindset. Like, and I don't like calling people victims. But sometimes people have this idea, right? That like successful people have some magic thing someone gave them. They didn't know, never had to work for it. They're just lucky. And the reason people develop, I think, mindsets like this is because it's a lot easier to say, oh, that person just got lucky than it is to face the fact that maybe they just did something you didn't do, right? Maybe they did something right. Maybe they worked for it. Because if they could work for something and get it and they're there and I'm here, what does that say about me? Right? So it really takes a lot of maturity to really be in a place where you can keep your power, keep becoming the person you want to become, not let the judgments of other people get in the way, and keep taking the next steps on your purpose. And one of the things that no matter where I'm at on this process, I always come back to is, who do I need to be? Who do I need to be to have the future that I want? And you can do this at any time where you just kind of imagine your current goal, whatever that is. And even if your goal is super far away, this really tends to work because it sort of reorients you, it sort of regrounds you into what it is you want to do. Even if you're like, I want to help people, even that is enough of an intention to use this process of, what is my desired outcome? Who do I need to be? Because when you're in that stage of, I just want to help people, well, you need to be someone who can help someone. And even just gaining one skill, this goes back to something I said earlier, gaining one skill to help someone would be a step toward that. And even if, and I remember a time where I would say that I just want to help people. And I wasn't really clear on what I was doing, but at least it gave me a direction to go. So you can think about your dream or goal and imagine yourself doing that thing. Imagine it in like 5 years or 10 years. For some people, 3 years is better. It just depends on how you think. Maybe where your Mercury is. I get squirrely after like 3 months, you guys, but that's just me. But no matter where you are on your purpose, there's a desire inside of you that is like the acorn seed that wants to grow into a tree. You don't have to know what kind of tree you want to grow into. And if you're going back to this process of becoming the person who can handle the success, you can think of your dream or your goal outcome and think about what that version of you has or does that you are not doing or not having now. So, I could do this right now with myself. Like the version of me that has the bigger YouTube channel, maybe I have like a bigger computer so it's easier to edit videos. Maybe I have like, I don't know, maybe I have some courses done for people to buy. Maybe I have a better website, right? It's easy when I focus in on where I want to be, on exactly where I want to be, to figure out, okay, what steps could I take to get there? This doesn't have to be too hard. And if you're earlier on the journey, some of these things may not be crystal clear, but this activity of going, who do I need to be, instead of trying to manifest that thing as if it's something outside of you that you're going to go get. Who do I need to become that this would naturally happen? That's the key, is to become the person that this would be the next indicated step. And I was stuck on this for a long time because I thought I wanted a quantum leap. And there was years of my life probably that I tried to manifest a quantum leap. And I thought that was the way to the purpose, is to like, wake up and win the lottery, or wake up and have YouTube fame, or wake up and just have it all be like, whoa, And the thing is that I would not have been able to handle the quantum leap. So instead of trying to have a quantum leap, what I've done instead is just change stuff. And I identified What are the things I need to do to have the thing? Who do I need to be? And you really, again, you really don't have to be perfect about this, because I think when we start moving the energy in that direction, the energy matches, but we got to put the energy out first. And one of the myths, the lies about this, is that it's going to happen to us, and that we're going to wake up one day and someone's going to discover us, and we're going to just magically land in some situation. I really thought this for a long time, that like someday someone famous was just going to meet me, and like somehow they were going to recommend me to someone, and then I would have like magic happen. I don't know what like I was thinking, but this was my mindset, and this was my mindset because I didn't see myself as capable. So there was, the only way to dream was to have a dream where someone else did it for me. So the first step, if you're in that spot, or if you get caught in that spot sometimes, is to develop yourself into a person who is capable. And that can take time. That can take time. And it's okay if it takes time. It's okay if your next step to feeling like a capable person is cleaning your room. I did that today. It's okay if your next step is to learn how to do your hair better, if that's a thing. Maybe it's not, but that was a thing for me. So when we can get into the vision, but we can see it as we are going to be the one who creates it, then sometimes quantum leaps do happen. And Reese is saying maybe that will still happen for you. Maybe it will, but if it does, the person now is going to be able to handle it better than the person I was. The person I was would not have been able to handle it. The person I was could not handle one negative comment. One, not even one. I flipped out at the first negative comment. So I had to have the YouTube channel with a few views with just one negative comment, see that negative comment, have that reaction to that negative comment, get over the fear of that negative comment, have another negative comment later, right? Otherwise, if I never went through that and I just started a YouTube channel and I hadn't grown that thicker skin, what do you think would happen if I had a video blow up and get really popular? Do you think mentally I could handle that? No. I would have deleted my channel if the old version of me blew up immediately. So maybe you guys can apply that to what's happening with you in your journey right now and the path that you're carving, because it always goes back to, how are we becoming the person who can handle the thing that we want to have? And I really want to encourage you, even though the astrology chart tells you a bunch of shit that's really cool about how to work toward your purpose, at the end of the day, even if astrology didn't exist, you could still find your purpose by using the tools that I've just talked about today. And so even though I love astrology, sometimes I find that people want astrology to have answers that it doesn't have. So your astrology chart doesn't always tell you like what you can do, because what you can do depends on what you're willing to do, right? What you can do depends on how much energy you're willing to put in. Whether I can be an astrologer or not depends on if I'm willing to continue to learn astrology, if I'm willing to put that astrology into terms that people who want to pay me understand, and, whether I want to, how I respond to those people, right? So like, let's say I got a bunch of clients and I was just a total bitch to them. I probably wouldn't be a very good astrologer, right? Because like most people coming to me are pretty vulnerable. And so, I mean, that's kind of an extreme example, but when I'm looking at your chart, I can't see what you're putting into life, what you're putting into yourself, what you're putting into your skills. I can only see some of the potentials. And, part of being a good astrologer and using astrology is finding the balance between letting the universe inform us and confirm things for us about our path, and the difference between what we can claim and what we can own. So, natural talent is a factor. It is, but it's not as big as a factor as most people give it. Most people put too much emphasis on talent and not enough emphasis on willingness to do the work. And I think there's a beautiful blend here somewhere where, part of it is about identifying your natural talents and natural interests that you can become skilled at. And part of it is about um, developing those skills. And I think people have this twisted a little bit. People think that, and the thing is, different people have different level of talents, right? So like, we talked about this. I bet you weren't here on the first part of the stream because we talked about the Ikagai and we talked about, you know, how to blend all these things. So you might want to like watch it again after the live, just because we talked a lot about that process of like the skills, the things you're good at, and how that factors in and what else is needed in addition to just what you're good at. Natural talent is a factor. Like, and when you think about people who are really, really, really great at stuff, obviously they're honing in on natural talents, right? Like basketball players are usually naturally tall. People who sing usually are. Oh, that's funny. Sing shows are a good example. A lot of people want to sing, but oh, okay. That is a good example. Sometimes you're not good at what you love, and we did talk about that earlier. And so that's a thing. That's a thing that happens. And being good at singing is still a skill that you can develop. You don't have control over what voice you got, whether you got a nice voice, but everything else about singing you can control. And that's something I think most people don't know, is that singing is a skill more than it is a talent. And sure, some people are really good at singing when they're little and they develop the skills. Like Beyonce developed the skills when she was young. A lot of the famous singers you see, did they naturally have the best voice? You can actually go back and look at their early concerts and you can see that they didn't start out with amazing voices. They developed them. They developed them. And it's not like they started out horribly, but most singers develop good voices. They are not born with them. And this is one of those kind of myths that, yes, there are some things that give you an advantage in different fields. You got to have a certain amount of brain power to be in IT. You got to have a certain amount of athletic ability to do sports. There's no lie about that. But everything else is skill, and skill is so important. Skill is so important. And we talked about that a lot earlier, so I don't want to go too far into that. What else, you guys? Let me think. I'm going to drink some more water and ponder what else we need to chat about when it comes to how to find your purpose, because this is so important. And I think it just gets, it gets such a like bad rap, purpose, because there's so much fluff out there. Oh my God, I'm dying of thirst right now. Okay. Okay, so I want to kind of talk more about the idea of becoming the person who can handle the thing. Because the one thing I think that is going to help you the most with really finding your purpose is knowing yourself. Because sometimes, this is the thing that really it takes to be able to develop your purpose, to identify the skills you're good at, to, identify what maybe you're not so good at, even though you like doing it, and then move forward from there. I think that this is what I was lacking when I was younger. I didn't know how to tell if I was good at something, and I didn't know how to measure any of that stuff. But I do think that the solution to that, it comes from inside of us. So it's not about finding the right tool to tell us what skills we have. This is the danger, I think, of coming to astrology to figure out what your natural talents are, because I think that sometimes talents emerge and sometimes talents depend upon what you do. So like, for example, intuition is a talent that Um, Intuition's a talent that I didn't know I had. Okay, I wasn't born with intuition, and I always feel a little bit strange talking about this because I don't think I'm the most psychic person ever, but I did develop my intuition a lot during my Saturn return. And I did see last night in one of my books a confirmation that people with Saturn in the fourth should develop their intuition and that they have intuition, and it's actually more about learning how to listen to it. And so this is a thing that, Jasmine, you're right on the money. That sometimes our talents we don't recognize. And this is true with our gifts as well. And oftentimes, the things we are the best at, we don't even think of as being a big deal because it comes so naturally to us. And sometimes the things that other people see in us that they want the most, that comes back to the midheaven. We don't necessarily care about that thing. Or it's not like we're not passionate about it, but everybody loves it when we do it. So I'm trying to think of examples of mine. The only thing I can think of here is one of the things people say a lot to me that I didn't really know was going to be a thing was people will say they like the way I explain things. Now, I do remember when I was teaching English, I remember this job in South Korea being really, really cool because it was the first job I didn't hate. And it was the first job I didn't totally suck at. I didn't think I was great at it because I didn't really care about English. So I wasn't passionate enough about the English language to like really like teaching people about countable and uncountable nouns. Like that wasn't fun for me. But I remember that it came really naturally to me when I was teaching how to explain something to someone. Like I remember those moments the most where it was like, the student will be like, well, how do I do this? And I just somehow in the moment, even though I didn't prepare very well, like I didn't have tons of notes and stuff, I would just kind of figure out intuitively how to explain the thing. I don't know how I did that. I just did. Now, I would not have thought at that moment, I need to make a job where I can explain things to people. That was not on my radar. And I think everyone has that to an extent where they don't always recognize their natural talents. And sometimes other people's feedback ends up being, like Jasmine is saying, other people's feedback sometimes is what helps us clarify. And that's not to say that if one person says, you can't be a singer, that you should not be a singer. That actually did that. That kind of did happen to me, sort of. But because I believed it. But, it doesn't mean that. Like listening to feedback doesn't mean taking one person's feedback and making it the whole decision. Listening to feedback means like taking 100 people's feedback and factoring it in and seeing what pattern comes up over and over. What do people say over and over and over? What do people come to you over and over and over for? And this is why a lot of people, when they're trying to help someone start a business or find their purpose, one of the tools people offer is think about what people call you for or want your help with. Like what do your friends come to you for? And, in my case, that maybe wouldn't apply because none of my friends want to be taught stuff. Like, it's just, you don't want your friends to teach you stuff, really, But what do people come to you over and over and over for, or ask you over and over and over for? And sometimes you do have, it's a blend where you have to put yourself out there and then you get some of that feedback. And some of the things I see too, I see this a lot in readings where I see that, we are more in touch with our problems and our challenges than we are usually with our strengths or our gifts. And I can tell you this because when I'm in a reading and I tell someone, okay, you have this problem and this problem and this problem, they're like, yes, those are exactly my problems. And then I'll say, and then you have this gift and this gift and this gift. And they're like, yeah, I can do that. I'm good at that. There's no emotional charge usually around what comes easily to us because it comes easily to us. And sometimes we really need someone to tell us that that doesn't come easily to other people because we don't know. We don't know unless we're in a situation where we're confronted with that fact. Like, wait, you guys don't all do that? You guys don't all know how to do that? You don't all, everyone doesn't always, can't always tell if someone is lying. Like, I didn't know that when I was younger. I honestly didn't know that. I thought like And I would get really frustrated when people would get like, would believe things that were like clearly, in my opinion at the time, clearly not true because I didn't understand that like not everyone has strong perception. Not everyone has Scorpio, Mars with Pluto. Not everyone can just feel everything, Pisces moon. And so this is one of the things that astrology can help us with too, is to understand not just what our purpose is as far as our skills, but also like our blessings, in the sense that like the things that come easily to us that maybe don't come so easily to other people. Okay, do you guys have questions? Okay, and I want to talk about this from Jasmine. And I touched on this earlier when I was talking about the Ikagai. And she says, and then others recognize that it's not really what we want to do. This is the midheaven. And this is one of the myths about our purpose, is that, you know, if you just do what you love, because when others recognize something in us, sometimes that is how our midheaven works, that it's the thing the world wants from us. It's the thing that people like when we do it, but we don't always like it. And so we kind of have to decide whether we're going to step up and step into that role. That's part of the midheaven, and that's part of why finding out our purpose has so much to do, in my opinion, with really having a good handle on your Saturn. Because if you have a good handle on your Saturn, then you have the maturity and the responsibility and the discipline to know when to step up to the things, even if you don't like it, and to know the difference between kind of selling out on what you love versus doing what you love in a way, in a way that like really serves the world. And so, I mean, imagine being a singer and be like, everyone hates the song. If everyone hates the song you're singing, why are you singing it, right? For yourself. But if you're singing it for yourself, then you could sing it at home for yourself and you could enjoy it just as much. So, like, this is the challenge of the artist, right? Where it's like finding a way to stay true to the self, but also give the people what they want in ways that it makes sense. Okay, so I want to tell you guys now about my upcoming course on Saturn that I'm very excited about. I'm actually going to show you the page. I'm just going to tell you guys about it because it's going to be cool. And it, you know, it does kind of connect with this topic, even though Saturn isn't going to tell you exactly what to do with your life. If you haven't mastered your Saturn, it's going to hold you back from living out your purpose because you won't know where to step up to the discipline. You won't know where you are psychologically likely to block yourself. And you also will not know the timing. And so let me show you guys this. So this is running, I'm running this coming, it's March 29th. So you have a few weeks if you want to jump in. It's called Master Your Saturn. And it helps you to really learn how to master the energies of your Saturn placement by sign, by house, by aspect, and a bunch of other stuff. So, and it's even if you're a beginner. So if you don't really know how to read a circle chart, we're actually going to start there. And I'm going to show you how to find Saturn in the circle chart. And we're going to refer back to the circle chart a few times. So when you understand the Saturn, you can see how you block yourself and know exactly what to do to move past it by sign and by house. You can also know your biggest potential for mastery. And then you can also work with Saturn's cycle, that's 28 year cycle, to create success. Thanks, Jasmine. Thank you for the super chat. So you can work with the Saturn cycle to create success. So what we're covering is we're going over my interpretation of Saturn by sign, house, and aspect, but we're going to talk about the positive side of it, and we're going to talk about how to work with it, what you can actually do, not just get stuck in the psychology, although psychology will be part of it, like where you block yourself based on your Saturn element, sign, house, and aspect. We're going to look at what makes Saturn stronger in a chart. We'll look at the positive side of Saturn, like what gifts Saturn gives you and what things, what skills, what energies in your life to cultivate or develop to work with the Saturn you have. So every Saturn by sign is going to have things that you can get really, really good at, because where you have Saturn is where you can develop mastery. So if you're trying to live out your purpose, it's going to be a lot easier if you know what you can master, because that's what's going to make you like stand out as well. So we'll also do the Saturn return and then timing with the Saturn cycle, which is going to tell you when you learn your Saturn lesson. It's going to tell you when you can sort of plan on having stages, like wherever Saturn is, there's something you can do to work with it in every single house of your chart. We're going to go over every single house of the chart. We're going to go Saturn in relationship with Saturn. So like when Saturn is squaring your Saturn, how to tell which Saturn transits are going to affect you the most, which ones are going to have challenges you need to step up to, what time of life you're going to get clear on what those challenges are, and again, which ones will affect you the most and how to work with each and every single one. We'll talk about the meaning of direct and retrograde, and there's a strong focus in this course on really how to understand the real life implications of Saturn. Because I know, one of the challenges people have is that a lot of astrologers talk about needing to master Saturn, but not that many people are teaching how to do it. At least I haven't seen that. Yeah, so it's weekly, it's live, 6 2-hour live sessions. I'll give you cheat sheets for important stuff. You can watch the replays, and it's really not for people. This is not a course where it's like, come learn how to be an astrologer. It's come learn how to master your own energy, and we're going to talk about everything about Saturn you could possibly know that's going to help you master Saturn and work with Saturn. And we might even get into a little bit of how to like what day is Saturn's day and what color to wear, and like some of the more astrological, not totally magical, but a little bit in that realm of like remedies and prayers and what you can pray to Saturn and when you should do it if you're going to, and how to actually work with Saturn if you want to go that route. We'll do a little bit of that. That won't be the main focus, but we're going to go a lot really in depth into what Saturn means and how to work with that Saturn cycle in your life, and how to tell, whether it's a good time to like plant seeds or it's a good time to step up to responsibility and work and everything, all of that. And we also, when I say we're going through the aspects, I mean, we're going to go through every Saturn in aspect to every single planet. I'm going to tell you guys whether Saturn is like friends with that planet, whether they have enmity. I can't say it. Enmity. It's a weird, I don't know how to say enmity. Enmity. I'm going to have to look that up later. Okay, which planets get along with Saturn, which planets don't, which charts have harder Saturns, which charts have easier Saturns, and again, how to work with the different aspects. So that's basically how to work with your whole cycle of life and how to do this all yourself. So you will never have to watch another astrologer report on what Saturn's doing in your chart again if you take this course. So you kind of know what stage you're in, and again, how to master your Saturn. So you need your birth time, date, and place. You could do it without a birth time, but the information about houses isn't going to be accurate for you. I'll tell you a cheat sheet, a cheat way to do it if you don't have your birth time, but yeah, that's that. And you just click the button and you can join. It starts Wednesday, March 29th. It's 6 weeks. It runs live, which means every time you come to class, I'll be there live. If you're in a time zone where you can't make the lives, you can actually still do it if you would like to, and you'll still get to ask questions. I know just some people are in different time zones, and that's just kind of how that goes. But also you get access to the replays. And because I'm running this course live, the really cool thing is that if when we're in like week 3, I realize you guys all need more of something, I'll just give you guys more of it. So by joining the live, you kind of get to participate in the creation of the course, not in a sense of you tell me what I can do or not do, but that your specific needs are going to be met and your pacing, I'm going to go at the pace that the group of students that join need. This is again not a course for to like become an astrologer, although if you're studying astrology, you're more than welcome. It's about how to master your own Saturn, how to use Saturn for your benefit, how to work with Saturn, and like it says, turn the lead, Saturn rules lead. Turn the lead in your chart to gold. This is alchemy, guys. This is alchemy. So that's what we're going to do. If you want to join, you can click the link, and let me just drop a link in the chat for anyone who wants to join us. And we may even end up covering like rulership a little bit, but I don't want to get too much into rulership just because there's so much more. But we may end up getting into like rulership, and a lot of what we're learning about the Saturn cycle can be applied to all the different planetary cycles as well. So you're going to learn so much, and it's going to be broken down in a way that even someone who isn't an astrologer can understand. And the level you need to be at to get value out of this course, it's better if you are not overwhelmed by a circle chart. I'm going to tell you how to read it, but if you are like brand new to astrology, this may not be for you. It's better if you have a little bit of background in just what the signs, planets, and houses are. So I don't, I'm not going to be explaining this is the sign, this is the planet, this is the house. Maybe houses a little bit, but like you got to be clear on what a sign is, what a planet is. So that is that. And part of why I wanted to do this course is because this is like step 1 in doing your Ikagai. It's kind of figuring out what's blocking you, figuring out how to overcome what's blocking you, work with it. Because if you apply discipline, Saturn is not so bad. Discipline makes Saturn happy. And wherever we have Saturn, it's like it definitely can be blocks, especially early in life. Sometimes the place we have Saturn in our chart, we end up being a late bloomer in that place. And even just knowing that can be very, very assuring. Like for me personally, I have Saturn conjunct Mercury, and Mercury rules my 10th house of career. So it really makes sense that I would not have, the career that I want, or a career that is like solid until after my first Saturn return, and maybe even after that first Saturn square. And so knowing that makes me feel better, because I know that when I was younger, I did not have the career I wanted, but I know I can look forward to possibly enjoying that stage of life when it does come. And oftentimes where we have Saturn, the things are withheld from us, but it's like fine wine, baby. It gets better with age. So I think I'm going to stop there. I know my goal was 4 hours, you guys. We made it 2 hours, 51 minutes. This is the longest live stream I've ever done. And I think that I just don't have anything else to say. So I'm going to try to do these on Saturdays, these longer lives. So feel free to jump on a Saturday, see if I'm live, and hang out with us and chat with us, and listen to me ramble about life purpose and direction. So if you are watching this after the fact and you have questions, drop them in the comments below. And thanks for hanging out with me, you guys. This is so fun. And if you want to book a private reading, I do have those available. You can check out the link in the description to my website, where you can book a Zoom call with me, and we can look at the astrology. And we can either do your purpose or something else. Sometimes people want to know what's happening energetically as well. So that's a thing we can do. And I will leave you all with that. And just remember, you guys, you are creating this. And like your purpose, and all you have to do is keep going, regardless of where you are on the path. That's the one thing that I think has gotten me to where I am, is just keep going. So that's all I have for you guys. Thanks for hanging out and everything you do to support the channel. And I'll see you guys in the next video.